Raise your hand if this is your go-to-market plan. You've identified your product market fit, your pricing models, your competitor positioning, you've identified your ideal customers, you have your messaging, you've created market demand, you've even done some market research, and maybe you even bought on all the tech. Does that mean that you have the foundation for a successful go-to-market plan? If you said yes to this, let me ask you a few of these questions. Have you ever had marketing scramble last minute to send an email due to a product release that they didn't know about? They had to drop everything and now they're sending it last minute. Let me ask you another question. Have you had customer success frustrated that sales ended up making a false promise in order to close the deal that now they have to figure out how they're going to fulfill that? Let me ask you a third question. Have you ever had leadership misaligned on who they want to go after from an ICP perspective? For example, the CEO is wanting to go after companies that are mid-market. Maybe the sales leader wants to go after companies that are only in enterprise. Where does that leave marketing? So if you answered yes to the very first slide about if this is your go-to-market plan, and if you answered yes to any of these have you ever questions, guess what? I'm sorry, you don't actually have a fully developed go-to-market plan. But that's okay, because in today's session, I'm going to be talking to you all about how to build a successful go-to-market plan with 5 tactical takeaways that you leaders can do to guarantee the success. So hi, I'm Janelle Amos. I'm the founder of Elevate Growth, a demand gen and go-to-market consulting agency for B2B SaaS startups. My passion is about helping companies create a go-to-market strategy that catapult and justifies their marketing investments and efforts, as well as help to align and achieve their revenue targets. So let's talk about what's needed for a go-to-market plan to be successful. There are 2 components that we need to take into consideration, both from a tactical perspective as well as a strategic perspective. So we're going to break that down in terms of the difference between the 2. The first portion of tactical is really, really easy. That's that very first slide that I shared with you. That one's going to be the overall arching idea of that market research. It's going to be your product positioning, your ICP. It's going to be all those different components that a traditional go-to-market plan will have. But if you answered yes to any of those have you ever questions that I asked, you're missing part of the strategic approach. So in today's session, we're going to be focusing on what those strategic gaps are that are facing go-to-market leaders today. When I initially started doing this session and brainstorming what those 5 components would be, these were the ones that I came up with. And then I decided that I was going to kind of do a mini survey and pulse check my network because it's been a minute since I've been in-house. I branched out into consulting for Elevate Growth. And so I wanted to make sure that I was pulse checking it from an in-house perspective as well with individuals such as VP of sales, CMOs, CROs, and really wanted to make sure that I was hitting the nail on the head with these type of recommendations. And honestly, to my surprise, I was getting a lot of feedback of, oh my gosh, you're spot on. These are some of the ones that we're facing today. Like I'm taking notes from just you doing this practice session. And so I wanted to use that as kind of just justification between not only is it stuff that I've experienced when I was in-house, but now that I'm seeing from the companies that I consult with, as well as those from my network. And this is going to be a gap that go-to-market leaders are going to continue to be faced unless we address them. And so in today's session, we're going to be breaking down each one of these with what it is and how to solve it. So the 5 gaps that are facing the go-to-market leaders is just the constant chase of shiny things. Number 2 is the misalignment of leadership. Number 3 is total ICP chaos. And number 4 is siloed go-to-market teams. And number 5 is talent. So let's break each one of those down. So the first and foremost thing to guarantee success of a go-to-market strategic plan is that you've got to stop chasing shiny objects. You've got to find a way to help your teams be proactive and not reactive. And a great example from a marketing perspective is marketing is really, really great at just putting micro campaigns into place. They're hopping all around in terms of what they want to achieve from different channels and different A/B tests. And there's never really that larger motion that's in place to start driving those business results. They're too busy kind of just hopping around. And a really great example that I have here, which I actually experienced when I was in-house as director of demand gen. One Saturday, the CEO went golfing with a couple other CEOs as well. Sunday morning, he reached out to his marketing leader and he said, hey, I have another CMO who has been really, really successful at launching an ABM approach. We need to be doing ABM. So that marketing leader went to the marketing team and was like, hey, what is it going to take for us to deploy ABM? Me, being the sole demand gen individual, told them, kind of pretty much gutting everything that we were doing before and starting over, because we've been on the traditional demand gen motion and we don't have the tech for ABM. We don't have our target accounts identified, outlined, measured, none of that. So we're literally starting over from scratch, everything that we've done. And the feedback was, well, the CEO asked us to do it, so let's do it. Has that happened with you? If yes, then you're probably guilty of chasing some of those micro campaigns and not necessarily having that go-to-market motion in place. And it's okay for a go-to-market plan to change over time. The key here is that it's not just a shiny object of, hey, somebody told me we should be doing ABM. Now let's all gung-ho and work towards an ABM strategy. It doesn't work that way. Let's start talking about why ABM is important. Let's start talking about if we can have the foundation and the technology that's going to be successful to deploy ABM correctly, and so, right? And so from there, the problem with us just hopping all the way around, there's no actual time to measure anything. If we're just gutting everything and we're chasing shiny objects, we're breaking that level of reporting and data that we're acquiring to where at the end of the day, if we're measuring this from a quarter or a yearly perspective, we don't actually have anything to measure success on what is working. And so when marketing goes back to leadership and wants to ask for more money, they're not going to have that story or that buy-in to justify that. And a great example here is marketing then just becomes dispendable. They become seen as a cost center because they're not actually building anything for that tangible growth. And so chasing shiny objects results in just being busy for the sake of being busy, but it's not actually driving tangible results and growth for the business. The second point is that leadership has got to get aligned. So from an ICP perspective, this is when I was mentioning that maybe the CEO wanted to go after mid-market, the salesperson wanted to go after enterprise, and marketing's left with just these checkbox of who their ICP is so that they can run LinkedIn ads. So you have this constant chaos of the leads that are coming in, what people are working on from an outbound perspective, and none of that actually attributes to the goal, which is revenue, and the business growth. And so what we need to be doing is getting leadership from a buying perspective, not only on who we're targeting from an ICP perspective, but then also understanding from a business perspective, when does a company need to grow? When does it need to scale? What are we specifically going to scale? When we talk about from a startup perspective, which is my background, oftentimes startups will go to market with like a product bundle or specific product offerings or packages. And as they start getting a little bit more market feedback and market justification, they realize that only maybe one or two of those is what's going to be successful for a scalability standpoint. And then they decide when they scale, they're going to only move forward with the two and they're going to scrap the one. If you don't have buy-in for that, the revenue behind that is not going to come in because everybody's going to be just misaligned and going after the wrong targets. And you have to have the buy-in because then you're going to lose the passion as well. If you have leadership that doesn't have the buy-in of the direction that you want to go, you're either going to get turnover or you're going to lose that passion, which is ultimately going to affect your results. The third point is we have to define and align our ICP. And the big call out that I'll add here is that an ICP is more than just a desire. It needs to be based on actual data. And this is another true story. When I was in-house, we were trying to figure out who our ICP was. And if you asked a sales leader, they wanted to go after enterprise companies because those logos would be really, really great to land. I don't disagree. They would be really great to land. But the company couldn't, at the time, serve enterprise. We didn't have enough user licenses to support, like the product features didn't have the SSO capabilities for security standpoint. So how can we actually win the deals if we decided to move up market and start going after enterprise? So just because we want to land these big logos and just because we want to get a big check on commission doesn't mean that it is the strategic standpoint from the business perspective. So my recommendation here for identifying and aligning your ICP is to figure out what your company's sweet spot is. Where do you sell the most deals? How do you sell the most deals? And what is that deal amount? And then you need to understand if that is profitable. Is that the goal or the direction that you want to take your business? And then again, why or why not for all of those? If it's not the goal, figure out how we need to change that from a targeting perspective. A great example that I have here for how to tell if you have a misalignment problem is to go around and ask different people inside of your company, or even within your same department, marketing, sales, customer success, and just ask them for your elevator pitch, your company elevator pitch. Just ask them to give it to you. If you get different answers for that elevator pitch, then you have a go-to-market misalignment. And that's going to start reflecting in your external go-to-market motions as well. The fourth point is please, please, please unsilo your go-to-market teams. So from product, sales, marketing, customer success, all of them have to talk to each other. Here's some examples. Customer success is hearing feedback from the customers on what type of product features that the customers are asking for. If they never talk to product, how is product going to know what to develop? Product's going to go down a tangent of saying, hey, these are all the next cool features that we're going to develop. And then when they launch it, customer success is going to be like, cool, but like doesn't actually give me anything to support my customers with. This goes back to the example that I added at the very beginning of marketing having to drop all to send a product release email because product never talked to marketing in terms of their release schedule. So imagine if product and marketing were in sync and they had these type of release features scheduled throughout either the quarterly objectives or annual objectives, and marketing can then incorporate those type of communications in their overarching marketing strategy. That would stop them from just chasing the shiny objects, dropping all, and potentially even half-assing those type of communications. So from a sales perspective, this also goes into making sure that what they're promising at the time of closing those deals matches what customer success has to talk about from a customer's perspective. You've got to have the alignment in terms of what they're promising, or otherwise they're going to have that churn going on, right? The customer's not going to be happy if they're guaranteeing this promise from at the time of signing to where even a couple months later, they're not able to actually access that feature. That's going to be a problem. So part of my recommendation for solving this is to make sure that every single one of your go-to-market department gets assigned a specific revenue number. And so, for example, for marketing, my recommendation is for net new business. For sales, you need to have them accountable for churn rate. For customer success, you need to have them accountable for net revenue retention. And then in terms of aligning everybody, make sure that you're communicating at least weekly. And my recommendation here is specific one-to-one meetings. Don't have it in a group, and have product to sales, sales to marketing, customer success, etc., vice versa, all together, one-to-one meetings saying, hey, what's your priority? What are you struggling on? How can I help? Those are what the communication standpoint. So everybody can start getting aligned in terms of what everybody is working on, why we're working on it, and how it contributes to that overall revenue number that we're all responsible for. The fifth point is to have a solid, successful go-to-market plan, both from a tactical and a strategic perspective. You can't do it alone. And so the biggest thing that is a gap that's facing go-to-market leaders today is people. People, talent. And the reason for that is post-COVID, the opportunities for candidates is absolutely endless. Everybody wants to work at the best companies. Everybody wants to get paid top dollar. Everybody wants to work from home. Everybody wants to have these big culture benefits. But at the end of the day, when you talk about how to make your go-to-market plan successful, and you talk about how you want to attract the right talent, what are you doing to actually attract that quality talent? And again, focusing on those, if you do have quality talent already in-house, what are you doing to help retain those type of quality talents? Those are going to be important in terms of making the success of your go-to-market motion, because headcount turnover, that's going to be really, really costly, especially from a leadership perspective, which goes back into leadership buy-in. If you don't have leadership buy-in, you're going to have that turnover. And the cost to replace a leadership role, and you lose that historical knowledge and all the work that's been done before, it gets really, really costly. It gets expensive all the way down to individual contributors. So when we talk about what makes the foundation of a successful go-to-market plan, it's hiring and retaining the right people. And a tip that I have here from hiring the right talent is to make sure that you hire people that you actually want to work with, not just somebody who can check a box on a resume. And the biggest thing here is everybody's like, oh, I want to have a culture fit. We need to make sure that they're a culture fit. And I challenge that. And I say that it should be a culture addition. You want to have somebody who can challenge the way you guys have been doing something before. That's the only way that you're going to be able to level up. Somebody who can come in with a fresh perspective and fresh eyes and fresh opinions to the team. That's going to be what gives you the capability to attract and retain the quality talent, the ability to speak up, to be heard, and to actually be a part of something. So when we talk about the 5 components of the gaps that are facing go-to-market leaders today, in order to have a successful go-to-market plan, in addition to the tactical plan that we talked about at the very beginning of this presentation, to have a successful strategic go-to-market plan, it comes with not chasing shiny objects. You've got to have a business plan in place, and you've got to stick to it. The second thing is leadership has to be in absolute total alignment. The third thing is you've got to have a clearly defined, data-driven ICP. The fourth thing is you have to unsilo your go-to-market departments. They've got to communicate with each other. Number 5 is you have to hire and maintain the right people. Those are all the points that I have for today's session. Thank you so much for joining me. Again, my name is Janelle Amos. I'm the founder of Elevate Growth. You can find me on LinkedIn, TikTok, at Janelle Amos. My website is elevate-growth.com, and my email is just janelle@elevate-growth.com. Look forward to answering you guys' questions. Thank you.